Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Kul huwallahu wahad, Allahus samad, lam yalid, walam yulad, walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Sadaqallahul Azim. On behalf of Corporate Pakistan Group, I am grateful to all our virtual participants attending our 31st edition of webinar series of Corporate Pakistan Group. We started this series in April first week after starting the lockdown in Pakistan and all over the world. And so far, we hosted 30 webinars, dialogues, and conversations on different issues. We hosted one series of dialogue on regional and geopolitical affairs, including the China-India standoff, the impact on Kashmir, the CPAC, and related issues. Our second series was on Pakistan's economy and related issues to Pakistan. The third series we hosted on power sector, and so far we hosted 4 dialogues on power sector with different professionals, and our moderators from Corporate Pakistan Group hosted these dialogues. We also started a series of conversations on the way forward for Pakistan. This series is very exclusive, and we hosted so far 6 federal ministers and also 2 leaders from Pakistan People's Party and 1 leader from Karachi, Mustafa Kamal, Senator Sherry Rahman. We hosted Chairman Wabda and Dr. Ataur Rahman as well. And today is our 10th edition of this series, while this is totally 31st edition of our webinar series. And our today's guest is Mr. Abdul Razak Dawood, a very prominent business personality, a philanthropist. He was rector of Lahore University of Management Sciences. His services are commendable in the business for the business community as well as for Naval College and several other projects. Currently, he is the advisor to Prime Minister on Commerce and Investment. For me, he's a father figure, always very helpful, very supportive, and a visionary leader. And our today's dialogue is all about the trade and investment because of his portfolio. We have with us our 2 CPGians, expert CPGians, Zafar I Sobani. He served as the president of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan and also the CEO of Century Paper Mills and HUBCO. And he's currently the board member of Privatization Commission and on several other boards. Our second colleague with me is Sajjeed Aslam, a very vibrant CPGian, and he's the country head of ACCA Pakistan. So हमारा जो इसका फॉर्मेट होता है वो ये होता है कि जो भी हमारे कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स होते हैं उनसे हम उनकी मिनिस्ट्री के बारे में पूछते हैं कि 2 साल की उनकी क्या परफॉर्मेंस रही, ओवरऑल इंडस्ट्री के क्या इश्यूज हैं, क्या चैलेंजेस हैं, एक ओवरऑल व्यू लेते हैं. उसके बाद हम उनसे चैलेंजेस और अपॉर्चुनिटीज की बात करते हैं, रोड मैप जो नेक्स्ट 3 इयर्स का है और उसके बाद जो फ्यूचर का रोड मैप उस इंडस्ट्री के हवाले से वो हम करते हैं. हमारा अब तक जो एवरेज अटेंडेंस है वो 50,000 प्लस पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं और 2 कॉन्वर्सेशंस ऐसी थी जिसमें हमारी 1 लाख प्लस पार्टिसिपेंट्स इस कॉन्वर्सेशन में थे. और अभी तक ये सीरीज बड़ी कामयाबी से चल रही है, बड़ा प्रोडक्टिव डायलॉग होता है. हम कोशिश करते हैं कि इसमें हम क्रिटिसिज्म फॉर द सेक ऑफ क्रिटिसिज्म ना करें, कंस्ट्रक्टिव डायलॉग करें, और बहुत सारी चीजें जो मीडिया पे हाईलाइट नहीं होती वहां से हम इसको एजुकेट करते हैं. तो मैं सबसे पहले तो शुक्रिया अदा करूंगा रज़ाक दाऊद साहब का कि वो हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं और ये इस वक्त फेसबुक लाइव पे नटशल कॉन्फ्रेंस के पेज पे और यूट्यूब चैनल जो नटशल कॉन्फ्रेंस का वहां पे इस वक्त लाइव है और बाद में हम इसको फर्दर वायरल करेंगे. तो मेरी रिक्वेस्ट होगी रज़ाक साहब से कि वो एक ओवरऑल व्यू अपना शेयर करें और उसके बाद हम इनसे क्वेश्चंस शुरू करेंगे. रज़ाक साहब, ओवर टू यू. जी रज़ाक साहब, आप अपना ओवरव्यू शुरू कर दें.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here to give you an overview of what the Ministry of Commerce and Investments, what are we trying to do. जब हमारी हुकूमत आई तो उस वक्त जो हमारा मेन मसला था ना वो यही था कि हमारे एक्सपोर्ट गिर रहे थे और मुल्क में डी इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन हो रहा था. तो the question came कि how do we improve the situation. And the main concentration was that we've got to be able to get our industry running again. Why was our industry not running? The industry was not running because it was not competitive in the international market. Why was it not competitive in the international market? Because our cost of production was too high. The cost of raw material, the cost of bijli was very high. So we were looking at what other ways and means. So we started tackling it. And I would like to mention today that I talk to business people. I've been to Sialkot, Gujranwala, Gujarat, Faizabad, Karachi to get a feedback from the business people. And Alhamdulillah, today they are saying that they are running at full capacity. So what has happened? Why is it that the situation is turned? And what is the factors that we've been able to get our industry moving again? So improvement in our investment came primarily that we started reducing the cost of doing business. In the first budget, we substantially reduced the duties, and today, in the second budget, we reduced them further, and we've already started. Even now, last month we reduced duties even more. This month we're going to be reducing the duties once again. By not reducing our duties, we create an anti-export bias. मैंने सारा 30 साल का 40 साल का एनालिसिस किया है और मैं ये देखा कि जब भी हम लोगों ने मुल्क में ड्यूटीज बढ़ाए हैं हमारा एक्सपोर्ट्स कम डाउन ड्यूटीज हम लोग कम किए हैं और एक्सपोर्ट started to go up. So now that we've reduced them, we feel that our exports are slowly but surely moving up. The other important thing we did was that for the 5 export sectors, we reduced the cost of energy. We said, okay, you can have your bijli. We made an analysis, and our competing countries were getting their bijli at 7.5 cents. So we set it at 7.5 cents. And we said, okay, gas will be given at $6.5 per MMBTU. उससे भी बहुत फर्क पड़ा and our industry started to move. ये तो एक पहलू है. The other one that I want to talk about is we must move away from focus on goods to export of services. And so now services have started to come under greater focus. And today our overall export of, for the last few months, our export of services has been moving up almost 20%. The other issue that we had before us is where are we exporting? So we examined that, and we have now started to move away from just looking at America and Europe and moving into the markets of Africa, Latin America, and the Central Asian republics. One of our biggest weaknesses, and it's still a weakness, and that is we have not, over the last so many years, got ourselves into any regional cooperation. SAARC is the only one, and that has not worked very well for obvious reasons. We're not in ASEAN, we're not in the Central Asian Republic. We've got to get ourselves into different regional corporations. So that has been a weakness. Our reach of PTAs and FTAs has not been as well as it could be. And so that is another area that we are looking at. And we have renegotiated the FTA with China. Unfortunately, it came into effect just a few days before COVID. So we're still in a process of trying to understand that. Our investments, which was there primarily in the under CPEC and under CPEC on the power sector side primarily, that was quite good. And then our investments we've now shifted our investment, and we're looking at CPEC to change its direction towards agriculture, towards industry, towards research, and getting more technology through CPEC. We still have a plethora of challenges, and one of the biggest challenges I have is we have created a strategic trade policy framework. It is done, and now the most important thing that we would like to do, and I hope that I'll be able to get this done in the coming weeks and months, वो ये है कि businessmen are asking कि हमारे लिए एक 3-year plan दे दो कि हमारे लिए हमारे बिजली का cost क्या होगा for 3 years. What will be the 3-year plan for our tariff structure? And that we're working on, and inshallah, our target is that by December, we've spoken to everybody, the ministry is doing its own planning, the businessmen are doing theirs, and starting in December, we should be able to give a roadmap of tariffs for iron and steel, for engineering, chemical, pharmaceutical, textiles, etc. And I feel that this will be a major element in our giving some predictability to our business people. कि आपके लिए ये roadmap है, and we will not change this roadmap. And I want to give it for 3 years. 3 years is the life of the remaining life of this government, and we will work on. Together with that, there are many other areas that we're trying to look at. Pakistan does not have a transshipment policy. Now, this is something that we have to do. Why is it that people do not use Pakistan as a transshipment port? We've made analysis to find out how many ships will pass our country, and why is it that all these ships would rather go to Singapore, go to Colombo, rather than come to Pakistan? And soon we will have a transshipment policy. We are not integrated with the rest of the world as well as we should be. Our port facilities are there. Our cost of operations at the port is not as competitive as it should be. And I've been having lots of discussion with Ali Zaidi, and he is now working on that how can we reduce this. Are our investments going on? Yes, our investments are now coming in. It's coming in in textile, it's coming in leather, it's coming in engineering, and we're now hearing that private sector wants to expand the cement plants. They want to expand their involvement in the plastic supply chain. So a lot of good things are now, alhamdulillah, happening. And we've got to be able in the coming months and years is to capture this opportunity we have. Our exports before, excuse me, before COVID was actually growing at 12 to 13%. So that meant we were moving up. Then COVID came, down we went, and again we are now getting back up. The export results of September were very good, and we are now back on the growth path. We've grown by 6%, and now I am expecting, I'm hoping that in the month of October, we will have double-digit growth. So all the various parameters are looking good. And a lot of the businessmen still complain about refunds. Businessmen are very thankful to the State Bank, who came forward with some relief packages during the height of the COVID shutdown. So I think we have been able, alhamdulillah, to get out of COVID with far less damage than many of our competitors. When I have studied the recovery of exports of Vietnam, Cambodia, Bangladesh, and India, and I am happy to say that our recovery is much, much better. And if we can just continue this, we will be okay. During the Q&A, there are many other things that I will say, but I would rather now leave it and let the question come, and I can answer a lot of the other things that I have in my mind together with the Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Razak साहब, and Zafar साहब, आप शुरू करें, उसके बाद हम उसको फिर continue करते हैं.
Okay. Thank you, Razak Saab, for giving an overall view of the economy of the country, what happened in last 2 years, and what are the plans for next 3 years. I agree your point. Unfortunately, Pakistan in January and February and December, things were picking up of the economy, and I was very closely seeing Pakistan export numbers. And I was always also on television when I used to go on economy subject. I was confident that we will cross probably 26, 27 billion. But unfortunately, this has halted, and our export for the year was much lower than 25 billion. I remember Pakistan export was static around 10 billion for many years. And again, Pakistan export is static for around 25 billion for last 4-5 years. And a lot of things there is to be blamed with the textile sector also, because they did not really do what they should do as far as value addition, April thing. And unfortunately, our per unit export price is the lowest. Now the new government is there for 2 years, and they are dishing out plans and study. What do you feel that when Pakistan can achieve the milestone of 30 billion, 35 billion, 40 billion in how many years from now onwards?
I think the one thing I will say to you is we were on the value chain, we were always at the lower end, as you just said. Absolutely correct. I've been doing some analysis, and the good news today is our exports of cotton yarn is coming down. Our exports of grey cloth is coming down. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि all this yarn and grey cloth is now shifting inside the country to our apparel sector, the garments, the home textiles, and that is what is going on. I feel that today I would like to see our, you very rightly said, my target is that if we can get our exports up to 50 billion, in the next 2 years, I think this will be a remarkable achievement. Our only issue in going up the chain now is we are constrained by capacity. Everybody in Pakistan is now wanting to expand, but they don't have the arrangement. So I am now preparing. In fact, I had a meeting on Thursday that we want to list down all the impediments for businessmen to expand, whether it's funding, whether it's the duty structure on machinery, whether it's getting more gas connections, bijli connections, land. All those things are being now really being focused on, because there is no doubt that we are running short of capacity. This was far different to what it was 2 years ago, where we had excess capacity. So that is what we're doing. The other thing that I want is, today, when we look at it, 22 billion, 23 billion of goods and 5 billion of services. So we are around getting close to 30 billion. We've got to get that 30 billion to go to 50 billion. That is the target. One thing that I must say, that Pakistan has not had a proper export culture in our country. Neither did the government ever pay attention to expansion to it. And we used to hear words like, we don't have exportable surplus. Now, my thinking on that is totally different. I'm saying there's no such thing. Everything should be available for export, and we will manage any shortages in the country ourselves. It's easier to regain the local market than it is to regain the international market. So we need our businessmen to move for value addition, and I'm just saying to you that that is actually happening, and I'm very happy to say that. And the tax people, FBR, they have been able. We have reduced, increased the refund that we've given, but I still hear from businessmen that our refunds are a problem. One other thing, when we talk of our export bias, refunds, we've got to get better. And another thing that I want to mention, which is not talked about too much, and that is, under international law, all our exports must, the duties on all exports around the world is always compensated. In Pakistan, that was not the case. Businessmen were not getting their full compensation. And today, I'm happy to report that I started work on this. The Ministry of Commerce and the FBR sat last October and said this is not good enough. We have to change it, and we have. And today, the leather sector, some parts of the engineering sector, like electric fans, etc., of all now, they all have an appropriate duty drawback determination, and they get the thing. I can give you an example that in the case of leather, they were being compensated only 1.7% of the FOB value. Now they're getting 4.76%, which means that they're now being compensated adequately for all the duties and taxes and surcharges that they pay. और एक और जो सबसे अच्छी बात ये है is now it has just started in the last few days, and that is their duty drawbacks is not go to the does not go to the FBR. It goes directly from the state bank directly to the exporters, and we will soon. The system is now working. Just yesterday, the state bank governor and the deputy governor confirmed to me that it is working, and now we will have a launch on it. So that's
yeah, I agree. I think I've been talking to the businessmen, and they are feeling that something is going on. I mean, still their satisfaction and trust level will take time, but I can feel talking in last 1-2 months. I think they are comfortable and things are improving, and especially in pandemic, the way government of Pakistan and state bank has out of the way helped the country to come back. It is remarkable. I think this is one of the example throughout the whole world. टेक्सटाइल की हम बात करते हैं तो आपका रॉ कॉटन जो दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट एंड वी आर स्टिल अनफॉर्चुनेटली फ्रॉम 15 million bales we have now coming to 8 billion bales, and unfortunately I mean we converted all the cotton areas to sugar, and sugar का एक crisis बना हुआ सब चीजें नहीं है. Do you think we can ever come back to our old history of 15 billion 17 billion with use of proper seed, proper fertilizer, and proper mixture of land and size, everything?
There was a seminar on cotton on Thursday, and I attended that and listening to all the aspects. My take on this is cotton is too important a product in our economy. We have no choice. We have to get our cotton production back up to 14, 15, up to 20 million bales. It is absolutely disgraceful what has happened. And this is all because we let it go to the provinces. And let's face it, the seed is not proper. It's milawat, pesticides. I went myself to Multan to talk to the farmers, and one farmer clearly said that where in the past he used to do 4 sprays, he now has to do 20 sprays of pesticide, and still he cannot get rid of the white fly. The same other farmers said that कोई भरोसा नहीं है हमारे पास सीड जो हमारे पास आते हैं वो असल सीड है कि नहीं है. So this is something that we now the Ministry of Food and Security is putting a focus on, and quite honestly it's got to be managed much better. Yes, we ruined a large. I remember during the Musharraf's time, one of the best growing cotton areas was Raimia Khan. Today, Raimia Khan is all sugar. We've lost the best. Now that should never have been allowed to happen. And some areas of Multan division have also been. So we have really hurt ourselves. So that's what it is. While talking about textiles, I want to mention just one other thing. It's a very important point. The world overall trade of textile is 70% synthetic and 30% cotton. We are the other way around. Our exports are 70% cotton and 30% synthetics. So the question comes is, how do we correct this balance? And which we have to. So last month, we reduced the duties on all synthetic fibers, filament, yarns, fabric. We have now reduced the duties, and I've also told the businessmen that in the coming budget in June 21, we will be reducing them even more. That is the way, and the businessmen are appreciating it. Because thank you very much. Finally, we're getting it in the right order. Also, all the duties on vegetable fibers have now been reduced. And I'll give you a small example of how these things benefit. We reduced completely the duties on raw jute. And today, Pakistan is exporting jute products. And the Jute Manufacturers Association is going to come to see me to thank me. I said, no, don't come to thank me. Come with a plan of how we can increase your exports. This is just one indicator. So if we do this with linen, hemp, flax, coir, all these products, it'll all open up and diversify our product range.
Very happy to hear. Over to you. Sajjeed, over to you, Sajjeed.
Thank you, Zafar sir. I think, Razak sir, thank you very much for that brief as well. And I think there are a lot of positive news coming up, and we hope we will see a expedited execution around it as well. One question which keep coming back to us, and that's one question we raised in the World Economic Forum as well, from one of a sector for export where we don't see much happening. And even recently, export policy order of 25th September, that's also not highlighting. That's the export of services. In Pakistan, we do talk about IT as a part of it, but I think still Pakistan has got a way bigger pool of professionals, whether we talk about engineers, lawyers, accountants, creative writer. And there's a certain segment where we have got that skill in Pakistan, and the rest of the world need that. Philippines, Poland, they started building on that specialized knowledge, and they started exporting that. And just a call center export, if we take one example from Philippines, that has exceeded $26 billion in 2018-19. And now they are moving to the export of finance services or financial services, and they are building a capacity around it. So how government is seeing the service sector as one of a key component on an export side, particularly if we are looking at the $50 billion, do you see there's a one segment which is underserved and does not have much focus from a government side as we speak today?
You're absolutely right. Services was not under focus when the Ministry of Commerce took the e-commerce policy to the cabinet. The cabinet approved it, and the cabinet has given that the responsibility to the Ministry of Commerce of how we can look at it. The e-commerce, I've had many meetings with youngsters, primarily, of how we can get our services moving. We've talked with Pasha. They're giving their suggestions. We are quite close to being able to put the following things in place. The State Bank, one of the things that they were complaining about, that there is not a free movement for money to go out and money to come in for services provided. And now it is easier, but certainly nowhere near as smooth as it should be. And the State Bank has still got to put a few more plugs, plug a few more holes, and then we will be much better off. But the most important thing is that our IT people, call centers, business process outsourcing people, the biggest worry they have is ability to get financing, because they don't have any assets. Their only asset is their intellectual knowledge that they have and the orders that they have received. So we went to the State Bank, and I myself sat with the State Bank. This was about 2 weeks ago, and asking them please to get a policy made out. They're now going to have a policy whereby the State Bank, the loaning will obviously come from the commercial banks, but the State Bank will take a part of the risk of non-payments, because in this area, obviously there will be some failures. So what was it? The State Bank will do the cover. Another thing I want to mention to you, just yesterday, the Prime Minister called all the bankers, and there were about 15 of them there. And that is, the bankers were there, and it was all about funding under the Kamyab Jawan program, where SMEs, IT services people, people who are in need of funding and do not really have a lot of collaterals, and the funding will be at 3%, and 50% of the default risk will be taken by the government of Pakistan. So now the bankers were all excited about it. The big difference is this time is it should not be political lending just because an M&A or an MPA favors somebody. No. Banks, you're taking 50% of the risk. Banks, you do an evaluation. And this is not something that is a gimmick. It's something that people can take this funding, and people have started. I know some of the people who have taken it because they came to me, thank you very much, we've got this funding. Fine, now let's move forward. So I hope that with this type of thing, we're now putting a lot of focus, and I will be watching very closely how our IT sector and within services, besides IT call centers, there are many areas which you mentioned, financial services, engineering services, banking services, insurance, all these things really develop, and I'm quite hopeful that now that there is focus on it, that we will be able to achieve some substantial progress.
Thank you, sir. Just building upon the same, and I'm very glad that when Pakistan and the government of Pakistan start recognizing the service sector beyond the IT is very, very important. But I think over the period, other professionals have really flourished, and they are also quite keen to contribute towards the export of services. I think one question keep coming back, even from a local investors and local business people, and or from a foreign business people as well, is a long-term industrial policy or long-term export policy. Like you, from a textile side, you rightly mentioned that the seed of the cotton and then making it up to the apparel. So there's a complete value chain. Similarly, if we are talking about the 50 billion export and we're talking about the industrialization, I think there's a there's a need to create that visibility, and there's a demand from the investor to create that visibility, that how government is thinking, which industries they are thinking about, and how the entire value chain will work and develop to create that capacity and capability to go to 50 and beyond 50. Definitely, if even if we are hitting 50 billion, we are looking well beyond the 50 billion dollar in terms of export.
Absolutely.
And not only that, we are also looking for a GDP size. Like if we look at today's GDP size and we compare that, we are somewhere to the corner of 300, 315 billion. There are economies of the similar size and who started the journey in the same way. They have crossed well over that 500 billion and going close to the $1 trillion. So, how that policy formation, a longer term policy formation, which can give a very clear visibility and a roadmap of the entire value chain, that where people should focus, invest, and how that value chain will work to create that value added services, not only for export, but also for our citizens in Pakistan. So, do we see that work coming out in a next couple of months or in a 6 months? A very well documented long term industry policy or a commerce policy covering all the sectors and the entire value chain.
Absolutely. In fact, we took it to the Prime Minister, and all the key ministers were there. It's called the Strategic Trade Policy Framework. And they gave some criticisms, they gave some ideas. We're now taking it to the cabinet for the final approval. Basically, what this strategic policy is saying is put aside all the traditional areas of exports. The traditional exports are textiles, leather, rice, surgical instruments, sports goods. We put them in a category as traditional export. And then we said, okay, now let's look at the developmental sectors. And so we had many debates. Which are the areas? And on that we have put at the highest is exports of pharmaceuticals. We are very competitive, and we can get our exports of those. We're looking at chemicals. We're looking at meat and poultry. And you'll be surprised to know that in spite of COVID, our exports of meat and poultry to the Middle East went up by 30%. That is the potential that we have. We're looking at exports of fruits and vegetables. This summer, you won't believe it, but we had the highest ever exports of mangoes. We were budgeting 80,000 tons, and we crossed 125,000 tons. So these are good signs, but am I satisfied that all the elements in all these exports of the non-traditional are fitting into place? My answer is when I'm not fully satisfied. We've still got weaknesses in the system, and somehow we've got to be able to get rid of all those things. And another very, very, very important thing is, and I'm happy that the Ministry of Science and Technology has finally taken it up very, very seriously. And that is, in Pakistan, if we want to export, where is the standardization? We've got to be able to have standards. We've got to be able to have certification. So our exporters get a proper certificate that yes, this product is here, it is certified, that it is what it says it is. It meets all the specifications that are required by the customer. this is something that we're now building up on. And there is a very, very fine lady who's joined us, who set up the standards, a Pakistani lady who set up the standards and the whole process in Dubai. She's now come back and she's going to head up this whole thing. And I'm very hopeful that Pakistan will finally start moving in the area in the area that we do standardize and we all start believing in it. One of the main reasons why our exports of electric fans cannot go up is because there's no standardization. There's no safety standards. So Europe and America will never buy our fans. So that's the thing. So I'm quite on the long-term policy. It will be there very, very shortly. And after that, we're doing sectorial. Textiles is done. Rice is done. Rice is now completed. And they have, the Rice Exporters Association of Pakistan has given us a plan of how they feel over the next 5 years they can take our export from 2 billion to 5 billion. So all this is, and it will be going to the cabinet for approval.
Okay. Razak Sahab, you mentioned about a year back that Pakistan obviously is spending a lot of foreign currency for edible oil. And I think I remember it's more than a year you had given a plan that Pakistan should be self-reliant in next 4 to 6 years. But I've not seen any progress on that, at least to my information. Are we going in that direction, or we're still stuck up there and still importing, and we had to import in next 4 5 years edible oil?
Many people talk very loosely कि Pakistan ये भी कर सकता है, ये भी कर सकता है, that Pakistan can grow anything and everything. Yes, we can grow anything and everything, but can we grow it economically? That's the question. I remember during Musharraf's time, there was lots and lots of talks that we should grow tea in Pakistan. And I pleaded with him, don't do it. We will just subsidize, and it will never make it. Our climate, our soil will never take it. A few scientists say, yes, they can grow one plant. Well, obviously you can grow one plant, but this is not that. The same thing is in the case of edible oil. I keep asking them, please tell us that is it possible? And it is and even if it is possible, it is a 4 or 5 year plan. It's not something that we can do straight away. And somebody has to tell us, the Ministry of Agriculture in the provinces, the Ministry of Food Security in the federal government has to tell us how much subsidy it will require in the initial stages to get it up to a certain level. And then, but when we get it up to the level, will we be economical? Or will it be just one more thing that we will have to subsidize, like we subsidize so many other things? So I'm a little, I've asked a lot of questions. The specific answer to your question is, I don't think much has been done by the Ministry of Agriculture.
Okay. One more question on FTA. I remember that it took a lot of time to renegotiate FTA, and after a long effort, we were able to get the FTA. But unfortunately, the benefit because of COVID is not realized. So what do you foresee that when can we get the benefit from the FTA with China? And also, do we also plan to have an FTA with Indonesia, with Turkey, which I also hear in the newspaper? Do we really are working in this direction to get the real benefit of FTA with China and other agreement renegotiating FTA with Thailand, Indonesia, and other countries?
Okay, I'll be very, very frank with you on this. As a businessman, I've always been, I felt, I question how well FTAs have done for the country. Now, when I did this analysis several months ago, the one FTA, I asked the Pakistan Business Council to do an analysis for me, and they did. The best FTA we have had is with Sri Lanka, because that is the one where after the FTA, our exports went up, and even today, the trade balance is in our favor. Our FTA, I'll come to the China one later, but our FTA with Indonesia was, I felt, not well negotiated. So we took it up with the Indonesian government, and I'm very thankful to them that on our request, I wouldn't use the word protest, on our request, they unilaterally reduced the duties on 20 items, and our exports to Indonesia have started to go up. So that we did modify our trading relationship with them. As far as Turkey is concerned, they are, we love the Turks, they're very close to us, but do they negotiate hard? And they're not willing to budge an inch. I've made 3 attempts. I met the commerce minister in Turkey. I met her in Davos. I met her twice in Davos, and they're saying, no way. We're telling you we will not give you any benefits on your textiles, on your leather. We are just petrified that you will swamp us, and they're not budging. So I feel pursuing an FTA there is meaningless. They will not do it. As far as China is concerned, the second one is much, much better negotiated than the first one. First one was an absolute, whoever did it just did not know the importance of an FTA. And now it's much better. We have access, the same access as the ASEAN countries on about 70% of our exports. So it is good, but now with COVID finally, hopefully coming down, will our exporters be able to go? Because the whole of this year, from January to, nobody has gone to China. Nobody has gone to China. So we have yet to see the rollout of that FTA. I am hopeful because I think we've negotiated it much better. And I can also say, and I don't mind saying it, that in the negotiations, I had to walk out because they refused to listen. And finally, they listened. So people are friends with us and we are friends with them, but business interests are business interests. And everybody has a right to pursue the policies that is in the best interest of their country. Finally, they did agree. We did convince them that we feel that this is the way we should go. And now on many items, we have complete all our engineering. It's all allowed to go into China duty free. Our chemicals can go there, our leather can go there. So we have a lot of opportunity. But
so challenge to Pakistani businessmen to ensure that they capitalize this opportunity as the things will go on.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Sajjad, Sajjeed, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, you mentioned that the standardization, and I think that's one of a very big step we are looking at right now. Going for standardization that will bring some credibility as well as opportunity at the same time. But as soon as we start talking about standardization, we are talking about capacity building for the entire value chain. If we talk about even the fan industry, we are talking about their vendors, and we are talking about the industry itself, their employees. There's a complete training and development area which need to be looked at. And again, going back to like you mentioned about Davos and the World Economic Forum, the last time they have identified a very big challenge around the reskilling of the existing workforce. And now we are talking about a one change on a standardization, which again bring the same kind of cost in terms of the development and making sure we are compliant. So what we are thinking around that one, the question number one, the capacity building to make sure that if we are talking about standard, those standards are delivered. Second part of that, how we are going to create that monitoring throughout the value chain, that we should not end up with a certain embarrassment with somebody outside the Pakistan or within our own consumer, that the standard which is claimed is not exactly the same which was certified or implemented there. So I think two questions around the capacity building and then the monitoring side of it to start with from a standards.
Can I, when you said this, something else has come to my mind, and I want to mention it because I feel ये बड़ा important है. वो ये है कि Pakistan historically has always favored trading and import everything. और यहाँ जो मुझे सबसे वो बुरी चीज लगती है वो ये है कि पाकिस्तान एक कबाड़खाना बन गया है दुनिया का, कि जो सब स्टैंडर्ड्स जो सामान है, एक मुल्क है पाकिस्तान, वहाँ सारा जाके फेंक दो. इसलिए वहाँ ट्रेडर्स बड़े हैं, वो ले लेते, अंडर इन्वॉइस करते, बड़ा सस्ता आ जाता है पाकिस्तान में, लेकिन इट्स ऑल जंक. And we become the backyard of it. And so anything on standardization and all this has to start also that we must stop unstandardized, unregulated goods coming into Pakistan. I'll give you an example. We want solar panels. We say, yes, we must go in for solar power. And now, so we have to import solar panels. And the solar panels that we've been importing is junk. They'll sell it to somebody very cheaply. He'll put it up on his house or in his farm, and it won't last 6 months. Gone. But why are we doing this? You see, so now I've asked the Prime Minister, we've got to be firm. Anybody who brings substandard stuff into Pakistan, collaborates and colludes with the custom, we will not accept it anymore. And if it is substandard, we will not allow it to be cleared. And once that message gets across in Pakistan, we start becoming like any other country. So you start at that end and also at the export end. So that's why I feel that unless we do it, and our businessmen both at the raw material side and at the export end. If our businessmen, well, our businessmen must pay due attention to standardization, and I feel it's very important. Ji.
Bangladesh has a per capita income which is higher than Pakistan. लेकिन उसको बांग्लादेश को बहुत सारे एडवांटेज हैं एक्सपोर्ट के अंदर. I mean, they get a preference treatment because of their एक चल रहा था benefit उनको. Are we not able to talk to the world about it that Bangladesh is not what it was 20 years back? Bangladesh is basically much better than us. मतलब हमें अपना तो काम करना चाहिए, but ये एक उससे हमें कोई मुश्किल काफी नहीं आ रही एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ाने के लिए.
बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने. I must say that Bangladesh has, with a lot of intelligence, exploited their least developed country status. They are no longer in the least developed category, no longer. But that agreement will expire. It's going to expire next year. Now we're hearing, and so we're getting ourselves ready, that we want to put a case forward that they should not get the advantage of LDC. Now we're hearing that they are finding some other way, not using the word LDC, but using some other word and some other methods of trying to get it extended for another 5 years. But we will certainly fight it in the WTO. Yes, we will.
Okay. Pakistan car manufacturing started in '93, and very illustrious plan for localization of making parts in Pakistan. But I think 28 years has passed, and we are still at a level of around 20-25% in localized, and rest all is import. And unfortunately, the quality of vehicles assembled in Pakistan is not at all as compared to other regional standards. I mean, are we not doing anything on that? Because इतना ज़्यादा प्रीमियम चल रहा है, अभी भी जो है 5 लाख का प्रीमियम गाड़ी पे चल रहा है आपका. I mean, this is something which, unfortunately, because of bureaucracy and because of EDB, everything, there's a mafia है जो है ना इसको जो है वो चला रहा है इसके अंदर. I think this is high time that we are making progress in other field. This is the area where we also need to make some development.
I agree with you. What is the main reason? Well, one of the reasons why efficiencies don't come in is that when we give too much protection to any industry, then they're not pushed to be efficient, because they can make a lot of money being partially efficient. And there are many industries, including the auto sector. Now, the previous government announced a auto policy, and that was fixed for 5 years. Luckily, that 5 years expires in June next year. So we've now started the negotiation with the auto industry that we've got to be able to start moving away from the type of protection that they've been getting. And also, there's another problem, and that is the FBR relies very heavily on the duties they get on cars, because the duties are so high, and at every budget, acha ek aur dal do, thoda sa, now they've got federal excise duty on it. not on the FBR has to compromise on their revenue, and we have to rationalize the tariffs on the components, etc. Unless we do that and give it a boost to improve their efficiencies, ये इस तरह से चलता रहेगा. मैं आपको और बताऊं, ये सिर्फ गाड़ियों की प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. Over the last 2 years, I've done many studies and spoken to our people. The same malice is in the iron and steel. It's the same thing in textiles. It's the same thing in leather. And that is why when I said earlier today, कि एक rational 3 साल का tariff मैं दूंगा, this will have that we will squeeze our business people. I know the textile wallahs will get upset with me. I know the iron and steel is going to get upset with me, but we have to squeeze them. And that is the way efficiencies will come in. And this is right across. If somebody can make a lot of money manufacturing yarn, why would they go through the trouble of manufacturing garments? You're happy with your spinning. Now we're changing all that, and we will squeeze them. So this is a program that is very close to my heart. And as I said, in December, we will start this whole show rolling. And one thing that I am doing in the meantime, and I'm not waiting for next budget, is I am reducing duties on the raw material. Today, Pakistan imports about 41% of industrial raw material at absolute zero rated. So if you've done that for the raw material, now the next thing is, why do you need so much protection? You don't need it. You've got to squeeze them, because the raw material is now gone down to zero. And that is, we've done lots of studies of how other countries have gone ahead, and they have gone ahead through this method. Why is it that the ASEAN countries, the duties are so low? In Pakistan, they're higher. These are the factors.
Razak sahab, आपकी ये जो बात थी raw material की थी, I think paper and board industry is the biggest beneficiary of this measure. The import of paper and board last 2 years से almost जो है बहुत कम हो गई है, because you've reduced the duty on raw material, और local manufacturer जो भी players इसके हैं paper and board के, they are doing a fantastic work, because obviously it is saving effects for it, and obviously they are expanding and everything on that.
Yes,
Sajjeed, over
absolutely.
to you.
And I can assure you that as this tariff rationalization sets in, you will see much better results on the export side. Yes, there's no doubts in my mind. I just got to get it. The reason why I wanted to do more of this tariff reduction, but we do have budget constraints. So myself and Dr. Fisher, we sat down, and he agreed to a certain amount, and then left it to me as to where I should do it, and it's coming along. And as I say, in the month of October, this month, some more 152 lines of the tariff book are going to ECC for further reduction. and we just keep doing it. I can't touch custom duty because custom duty requires going to Parliament. But I can touch additional custom duty and regulatory duty, which is what the Ministry of Commerce is doing. एक और चीज है, पता नहीं आप लोग इसकी अहमियत समझते हैं कि नहीं, but a very, very important decision that was taken by the cabinet is that the FBR no longer has the authority to set tariffs. That authority to develop a tariff structure is now with the Ministry of Commerce. I think it was a hard fight. They didn't give it up easily, but now it is with the ministry. All matters relating to tariff has now moved, and it is a very dramatic change that it has come over to commerce. And now the responsibility on commerce is A, to build up the capabilities and to do it judiciously. And the National Tariff Commission has been given this task. And Alhamdulillah, since it was given to the ministry, we've had now 15 meetings, and every meeting we're looking at how to improve it. At the last meeting we had 2 days ago, we looked at the whole plastic chain, right from crude oil all the way through to plastic products. And now the ministry is working to, and by inshallah by June, that whole will be approved, and we'll put it in the budget. The same thing will be done for iron and steel, the same thing for engineering, same thing for chemicals. So inshallah, this will be a very major crack in the inefficiencies.
Thank you, sir. Azfar, do we have a time for one question?
Okay.
Yes, one question I want to ask. Razak sir, what about GSP plus status from European Union after the end of present grant that will end in 2023? What are steps
This
Commerce
is an
Ministry
excellent
doing?
question. GSP plus is so important to us, so important that what was it? We have created a group inside the Ministry of Commerce that will focus on GSP plus. Now we've got the extension. On the 15th of September, we gave our first report as to how we are doing on the 27 conventions. There are 27 conventions, but the European Union is concentrating on 9. On these 9, how is Pakistan doing? And one thing is for sure, we will have to be very careful, because the Green Party is now in power in the European Parliament, and they are raising the bar. So we will have to be just that much more careful. And when the commissioner saw our report that we submitted, they were reasonably satisfied. Normally, if there was no COVID, we would have received a delegation out here from the European Union, and they would have examined all the things. So they said, no, we're not coming out there. But we were asked to give an even more extensive report, which we have sent. It's a challenge. We cannot underestimate it, because our exports to the European Union is nearly $5 billion. So it will be a big hit if we lose this status. Last year, Cambodia lost it. I feel us, Pakistan, exporting 5 billion is still very poor. We need to do much, much more, because there is a much bigger range of products on which we have got duty-free access. We have a very narrow range that we're operating in. So not only do we have to diversify, but we've got to make sure that GSP plus status is not lost. With a rising standards, the bar is being raised by the European Union. I went to Brussels, I went inside the parliament, I met the European parliamentarians, and there were many of them were youngsters, and were asking questions: why not, why should we not raise the standards, emission standards, human rights standards, labor law standards, climate change standards. They're changing all these things. So we have a lot to do. But I can assure you it is under focus.
Thank you. Last two questions from Zafar Saab and Sajjeed.
Razak Saab, go ahead.
I think it's not a question. I'm sure there are a lot of comments which are coming up, and there are comments which we are seeing. So there are a couple of observations. I just want to highlight those observations. I'm not sure we will be looking at the answer right now. I think the role of commercial attaché, I think that's one area which is highlighted, how they are going to connect businesses. We haven't seen much progress in it for the last many years. There is one role, like one observation, like we are talking about expanding the tax base. So you highlighted as well, and that's one of our observation, expanding the export base, because the opportunity size and diversity is an important one. And then there's one question or observation around, if you talk to the investment agency, like the Board of Investment, federal level or provincial level, they will talk about the foreign investment rather than really taking the local investors and the existing investor alongside with them. And the last fourth observation is that most of the policies which we are seeing coming up or discussed, that's for the new investor or new investment or in a new economic zone rather than in the existing economic zone by the existing investor. So I think these are the four key observations which we are hearing from a different audience right now. So this is something if you can briefly talk about it, or otherwise these are some observation which audience has shared with us right now.
No, I can talk about it. I think because there's some very good points that you've raised. First of all, you raised the issue of the commercial councillors. Commercial councillors have been appointed on political basis, and let me assure you, 85% of them have been changed. And we went through a very extensive process. And all those that have came back and those that have been sent out are a much better lot than in the past. And I can categorically assure you that not one of them was selected on the basis of Sifarish. Not at all. That's one part. So now you've got better people out there. So then the next question comes, how do you make them work better? You've sent better people, but they've got to be able to do things better. One very good thing is now being done is we've now started to give them, first of all, they're no longer commercial officers, they are trade and investment officers. We've given them the responsibility also of investment. Now we formed a WhatsApp group, so every month we are sitting with them and talking to them. Aap kya kiya? What have you done? Where are the new where are the new exporters coming to Pakistan? Where are the new investors coming to Pakistan? What new things have you learned about that country that you can send back to us? So it's getting better. At least the whole concept of setting targets for these people are now coming in. Each person will get a target that he's got to increase the exports to that country by X amount, and investments from that country coming in by a Y amount. So that's one area which we are definitely doing, and we do have a much better lot. You talked about export base. That is, as I mentioned it, part of the strategic trade policy framework. We have to diversify our product range. Our product range is too narrow. I'll give you an example. When we had an international expo in Lahore in 2019, November, lots of foreigners came over, and we spent the whole day there talking to each and every foreign delegate. And I asked them, what do you feel about our products, the quality of our products, the price range of our products, and the variety of our products. Most of them said that we've been here, and now this is the first day, and we've seen all the things that you have to offer. Your product range, they told me, is too narrow. When we go to fairs in other countries, it takes us 2 days to go through everything. We've gone through everything in the first day. Your quality is getting better. Your prices are good. But your range is too narrow. And one of the reasons why that range is too narrow is what I said to you earlier, that we are 70% in cotton. The outside world is 30% in cotton, and the rest is all synthetics. There is a new brand of products that are coming out which are called technical textiles. These are fabrics which is a mixture of a little bit of cotton, synthetics, plastics, all sorts of new products that are coming in. We all see it whenever we go to London and New York, the parachute materials and this material and that material. But Pakistan is not in that market. So what we're doing, okay, bring those in duty free. Bring the fabric in duty free, because we're not making them in Pakistan. So bring it down duty free and start manufacturing the fabrics. And inshallah, it takes time to be able to get into that market. We have a lot to do. We have a lot to do. I want to. Are there any more questions? Because if
one question from me. Should I, if you take a stock of on CPEC, I think what we have achieved is that we have overdone on the power project, with the result is that we are now trying that how can we rationalize our capacity payment. We have done some work on infrastructure road, But the important thing which was part of CPEC was development of special economic zone. Unfortunately, I mean, we are hearing meetings and meetings, and in fact, yesterday also, probably Prime Minister also spoke on SEZ. But very frankly speaking, SEZ and should have gone hand in hand with power project as well as infrastructure project. We are too late in this SEZ, and Chinese people say that this is your work. We have done our work. We have done power project. We have done road and infrastructure. But SEZ, you people have to do it. Do you agree with my point that we have gone too slow on SEZ?
Absolutely. We have, and we made a presentation to the Prime Minister just the other day, and the SEZs are all approved, all the formalities are done, but it has to be developed by the provinces. SEZ is a provincial subject. It is not a BOI subject. The BOI approves it. The BOI agrees on all the development of the taxes and duty structure, etc., etc. So and what was the problem on the SEZs? Unfortunately, we must understand that Pakistan में हमेशा एक plotting का game है. आप देखोगे सारे plots बिक गए. How much industry has come on them? 15%. But सारे plots बिक गए. तो आप जाओगे तो बोलेगा कि देखो ये प्लॉट है तो उनके पास जाओ वो खरीद लिया है. And when you go to him, they put the price up. I'm recommending that in these SEZs, let's not sell the plots, give them on lease. So then it becomes cheaper. How do we reduce the cost of all this? That's the main thing. And the other thing that we've gone and done is if any investor buys 50 acres of land, puts up a factory, spends $100 million on the factory, we will declare that plot as an SEZ. So he gets all the benefits. Just to speeden up the process. We want to speeden up the process. And that is the way we can do it. And the 3 were approved by the Prime Minister. The service group put up a tire manufacturing plant in outside Karachi. They have they're spending about $120 million, and we will declare that plot as an SEZ. So he gets all the benefits. And there are 2 others, one in Lahore and another one in Balochistan. A Karachi investor has gone into Balochistan and has put up a factory. So we say, fine, you take the benefits of an SEZ. And that's a method of trying to accelerate the whole process. Any other questions? I'm okay. I'll take questions.
Any other questions, Sajjeed or Zafar? Please mute your voice.
Yeah. One question is that this is your second stint in the government. In Musharraf era, you were also Ministry of Commerce. And now it is now more than 2 years. The bureaucracy, unfortunately, I'm sure you must be enjoying bureaucracy and getting the things speed up. How do you compare the bureaucracy in 2000, in your first era, and compared to this era? How do you feel that bureaucracy has gone down, up, or same?
There is no question about it. It has gone down. Not only gone down, but the pool of quality people has shrunk. Everybody's fighting for those few good people that are now available. Not only has it gone down, but even the good ones, they're not willing to take the decisions because of NAB. Too many bureaucrats have been taken in, put behind bars. So the propensity to take risks, propensity to take decisions has substantially come down. And how many times, I never had to say this during the Musharraf time, but I do say it, okay, give it to me, I will sign it. Because if you people are not willing to sign it, then what can I do? I will sign it. And that will protect you.
As a board member of Federation Commission, I can still feel, because it is more 6 years I am the board member, I can see the huge deterioration of the quality what it was few years back. Very, very pathetic, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the last 10 years, the last period of Noon and the last period of the PPP government, these last 10 years has led to substantial degeneration. Yes, it has. Yeah. We are a very impatient country. We want, we allow degeneration to go on for decades, and then we suddenly want everything improved in months. And I can assure you, it's very, very tough, very frustrating to push it. But that's the challenge, and that's the excitement. That is what we're there for, and that is what we're doing. And we are. I feel that people ask me, "Are you satisfied?" I am satisfied to some extent on the progress, but as a professional, you're never fully satisfied. There's a lot more that we can do, that can be done. But I can also see that the next 2 years will be, I think, better than the previous 2 years, because now people have settled down. We're now getting into our stride. And the economy has gone and now is coming up. And I feel, I also feel, and you people may know more than I do, is the beginning of a feel-good factor is coming in now. Because of the orders that are coming in, factories are running, so they must feel better. So actually, as a concluding remarks, we have a fabulous country, great potential. We're in the process of realizing that, and I do feel I have lots of hopes, lots of excitement about it, and I honestly feel that with hope in our hearts, we will have a better tomorrow. And
Inshallah,
I do
inshallah.
Inshallah. That the city, that for there will be a better environment for the citizens, and our country will get better, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you, Razak Saab, for your valuable remarks. This was a very productive session. I'm grateful to Dr. Sobani and Sajjeed Aslam as well. And with this note, the meeting is adjourned. The link of this whole video is available on YouTube link of Nutshell Conferences. Visit Nutshell Conferences YouTube channel, and the whole video is right now available. Thank you again, Pakistan.
Thank you.
Zindabad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.